We like to think knowledge dies in great fires. The truth is quieter. Tonight, the story of the library that once tried to hold every idea on earth, and the slow way the world let it vanish. Everyone knows how the story ends. A fire, the greatest library of the ancient world, swallowed by flame in a single, tragic night. It's one of history's most repeated images, the night humanity lost a piece of itself forever. There's only one problem. It isn't true. The Library of Alexandria did not die in a night. It died slowly, over centuries, and almost no one noticed it was happening. That quiet way of losing things may be the most important lesson it ever left us. To understand what was lost, you have to understand what they were trying to build. Around 300 years before the Common Era, in a brand new city on the edge of Egypt, a king had an idea so ambitious it still sounds impossible today. His name was Ptolemy. He had been a general under Alexander the Great, and when Alexander's empire shattered, Ptolemy took Egypt. But he didn't only want to rule it. He wanted Alexandria to become the mind of the world. So he founded an institution called the Mauseon, a shrine to the Muses. It's the word we eventually turned into museum, and at its heart sat a library with a single, staggering goal: to collect every book ever written. Not the best books, not the important books, every book, every play, every map, every medical text, every argument in every language they could reach. To fill it, they did something no one had done before. Every ship that docked in Alexandria was searched, not for gold, but for writing. Any scroll found on board was carried to the library and copied by hand. Often the library kept the original and gave the traveller the copy. The scribes had a name for these volumes, the books of the ships. Scholars from across the known world were paid to live there, fed and housed, asked only to think. And what they thought changed everything. A man named Eratosthenes stood in that library and did something almost unbelievable. Using nothing but shadows, sunlight, and geometry, he measured the size of the entire planet and got astonishingly close to the real number. 1,700 years before anyone sailed around it. Another scholar, Aristarchus, looked at the heavens and proposed that the Earth moves around the Sun, 18 centuries before Copernicus was given the credit. Euclid laid down the rules of geometry still taught in schools today. For a few golden generations, more knowledge sat under one roof than anywhere on Earth. It grew so vast that a poet named Callimachus had to invent a way just to find anything inside it. He built a catalogue, 120 scrolls long, listing the works and their authors. It may be the first library catalogue in history. They had built a machine for holding human knowledge. And then, slowly, the machine began to fail. Here is where the legend takes over. In 48 BC, Julius Caesar was trapped in Alexandria's harbour, and he ordered the enemy fleet set on fire. The flames spread from the ships to the dockside warehouses. Some scrolls, perhaps thousands, burned that night. This is the fire everyone remembers. But the library survived it. The story was not over. It had barely begun to end. Because a library is not a building. It's a promise that someone will keep paying the scribes, keep recopying the scrolls before they rot, keep the doors open and the lamps lit. Papyrus is fragile. Left alone, it crumbles within a few generations. A library only exists as long as people keep choosing it. And in Alexandria, the choosing slowly stopped. Kings who came later cared less for scholars than for politics. At one point, a ruler expelled the foreign intellectuals from the city altogether. Funding thinned. Wars came through. Centuries passed, and each one took a little more. A damaged wing here, a lost collection there, a generation of scrolls no one bothered to copy again. By the time a mob destroyed the Serapeum, a great daughter library on a hill, in the year 391, the famous collection was already a shadow of itself. And the dramatic tale you sometimes hear of an army burning the last books centuries later was written down so long after the fact that most historians now treat it as a myth. There was no final cinematic blaze. That's the uncomfortable truth. The greatest library in the world did not fall to a villain or a fire. It fell to neglect, to budgets that were cut, to priorities that shifted, to generation after generation quietly deciding that keeping it was someone else's job. It didn't burn down. It was forgotten, one unrenewed scroll at a time. We like to imagine that knowledge is lost in disasters because a disaster is something that happens to us. The harder lesson from Alexandria is that knowledge is usually lost by choice, by inattention, by all of us looking away at the same time. The fire is a comfort, the forgetting is the warning. So the real question the library leaves us isn't who burned it. It's quieter, and it's pointed at every one of us. What are we forgetting to copy? If you'd want to hear the next story History Almost Lost, stay a while. There are a lot of candles still worth keeping lit. If this story kept you company, subscribe. There's a new one every week. Until then, keep a candle lit.